We are on time, Vinay. It's just about literally not even like a minute late. It's still showing 7 p.m. So relax. But we're back on air. Obviously, I'm getting trolls, so that means we must be live now. And really, I want to jump right into this discussion. It's about AdiPurush right now, but 2 weeks ago it was about Brahmastra. Then before that, it was about some other film. So as you all know, I'm a screenwriter. So I was just telling Sanjay ji and Suhel that I have skin in this game. So I'm really kind of invested in where this is all heading, and it seems quite. It doesn't seem random anymore. Like people are offended by something, and suddenly there is this issue which is taken up, and banning calls and boycott calls. Now it happens for literally every other film, and sometimes it works, and sometimes, like in the case of Brahmastra, which is at 475 crores, I just read today, it's heading towards that kind of box office collection. It has not worked. So I just want to discuss Adipurush to start with, and then with Suhel and Sanjay ji discuss where are we heading. Is this a threat to creative freedom, or are we getting it wrong? Or I know we have got it wrong. Bollywood has got it really wrong in the past. So let's just dive right in. Sanjay ji, thank you so much. This is your debut on my channel, and I'm really grateful to you for sparing the time. I hope you won't regret it.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Sanjay ji, let's just start straight away with you. Let's start with Adi Purush. Now, why are people getting offended with Adi Purush? How do you read this situation?
You see, uh, with Adi Purush, actually, when I saw the teaser uh, and I saw the portrayal of Hanumanji and Ravan, it came to me as some kind of, I started wondering whether it was a comical film or was it serious? Because portrayal of Rama in this country is age
Mm,
old, and Ram Leela, as you know, especially in the north,
mm,
has a recorded history going back at least 500 years, because uh, Goswami Tulsidas ji's Ram Katha and the way they started to stage it all around Kashi and then in the Awadh, and how that whole thing became so popular. And why it became popular was there was a reason, because the character of Ram, the character of all the other uh, parts in that particular epic, it
mm,
goes to the root of what Sanatan Dharma stands for, which people mostly do not understand.
mm,
Let me also put a disclaimer, like Advaita ji put, because I too have a skin in the game, because I have written, or I am still writing, what is called the Krishna trilogy. And there I am writing on the story of Krishna. And I have said in that story, right in the introduction, I've said that I know that this story has many dimensions, because any story in India or in the Indian scriptures, it always had a context. Because the I think the byword is, or the basic rule is that no Sanatan text is without a context. That's point number one. And the second point about Sanatan text is that Sanatan text has dimension for every level of human consciousness. And as we know, in Sanskrit, Vak, as we call it, which is somewhat akin to the what we call psychoanalysis in the West, it has four parts, what we call Vakhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, and Para. And that variously corresponds to what we call Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, and Chitta. And every Sanatan text actually caters to each of these. And it is possible for the same text to be interpreted in four different ways. And that's what is true with the Puranic stories and also our Itihas. Ramayana and Mahabharata are Itihas. And when we talk about Ramayana and Mahabharata, you have to be very clear whether you're talking about the historic Rama, you are trying to appeal to the sense of the rational, like I mentioned about my Krishna trilogy. That trilogy is entirely directed towards today's youth, and uh, it appeals to the intellect. It is directed as a rational explanation of the Krishna story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you go to texts like Ramacharita Manas, of course, they are supposed to be primarily what we call the bhakti uh, epics
Mm-hmm.
or bhakti creations. But they also have the philosophies interwoven very deeply into them. Especially if you look at Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas ji's Ramcharitmanas, you look at Balakand and you look at Uttarakand particularly, and of course in between these strands are
Can't.
thrown in all the time. So this Adi Purush, whatever I could see, it
Hmm.
doesn't seem to be able to uh, differentiate, or rather, I should say, it doesn't seem to be able to target its audience. First of all, I
Hmm.
do not credit Bollywood with the capacity now, today, to
Hmm.
understand the Indian epics, the Indian scriptures. They simply don't have the capacity. So I think you have to be sympathetic towards their disability. But the director and the writer, they don't seem to know their target audience. Are they
Hmm.
appealing to the people who routinely watch Ram Leela, who have enjoyed Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana, or they are appealing to the people who are looking for the rational explanation? For instance,
Hmm.
when I wrote my Krishna trilogy, and in both, I've written two, the third part is still pending. I made it very clear. I said that, look, I am trying to intellectualize the story. That I said that, okay, this
Hmm.
story has very deep meanings going into what we call the transcendent area, what is called para in the Sanskrit Vak. So from the para, I am trying to bring it down to the level of intellect. And from the emotional, I am trying to bring it up to the intellect. I think that sense seems to be lacking from whatever I've seen in the teaser in
Okay.
AdiPurush.
Okay. Okay. Suhel, coming to you now, do you think a teaser or a trailer is enough to judge a film?
So there are three or four things, some which Sanjay has raised, some which I'm going to raise. A, if you haven't seen the full film, perhaps you may not want to make a detailed comment, but of course, teasers are their marketing gimmicks. So if the teaser is saying something about the film, then the likelihood of the film being that is more. I mean, otherwise, why would they do it in the teaser? It's the trailer. But I have three or four different things to park here. No one has the right to insult anyone's religion or faith or the dharma, as it were. But we have a censor board in place. The censor board approves these films. The censor board has people of eminence or not so much eminence, but that's for the censor board to decide. The second is it's a film. It must be allowed certain creative license. Satyajit Ray used to say there is no uh, art film and commercial film. There are only good films and bad films. So in the teaser, which I've also seen, I don't like the the visuals. The VFX, the things are. It's not to my liking, but it's just me. I can't say. I can say that I don't like the film. I can say that Sanjay doesn't like the film. Sanjay can rightly say that because he's an author and he's working on the Krishna trilogy, he can say that, look, I think it is violative of the principles. Now, that's the argument. Which brings me to my third point. If you are debating the film on a scholarly platform, I'm all for it. Then debate on the scholarly platform. Let us Sanjay Dixit or anyone. Let a Suhel or Advaita say that, look, this is the film about Ramji. This is a film which depicts Ravan, which depicts Sita, Mother Sita in such a way. And these are the realities, or this is the context. I'm all for it. But what is happening now is people who either do not have the scholarship or have not seen the film or have become armchair critics, it's now become fashionable to say ki bhai isko aap ban kar do. Now what happens in that case? I'm not worried about people losing money, not losing money. I mean, that is a worry. And it's a worry not for the stars. It's my worries for the technicians. My worries for people who daily wages in that industry. I'm not worried about a Bollywood star getting paid or not paid.
The thing they usually get paid, actually. That's the reality.
Yeah. Now, my point is that you must create an ecosystem where we can debate. Because one of the points that Sanjay made was that the director must recognize who his target audience is. If you make an intellectual argument about these films, see, there are two versions. One is a documentary, one is a commercial film. When it falls into a commercial film, someone will come around and say that, look, I have the creative license to say what I want. That's fine. You should then counter that creative license by logical argument based on scholarship. What Sanjay is doing, or what maybe 10 other people can do. But when you say that I want to ban the film, what then happens is you create an ecosystem which is about mob rule rather than about logicality. So logic takes the short shrift. B, let's imagine, I don't think Hinduism or our Sanatan Dharma or, our beliefs are so weak to be shaken by one, 2-hour film. Let's imagine the person has insulted someone we believe in or someone we respect or someone we love. Again, there's a course. Take them to court. Take legal recourse, saying that, look, but here's the point, Advaita. Then we must recalibrate the way the censor board works in this country. You cannot have a censor board and then have censoring individuals. Because फिर तो कुछ होगा ही नहीं.
The biggest censors are the politicians.
No,
they're the first ones to jump into.
See, that apart, they may do it for another constituency. They may do it for votes. Let's not even go there. Their logic is not. They have no truck with the film. They have truck with losing their voting, their voters. But I'm saying, look at the argument that Sanjay Dixit has framed. He has said, look, A, B, C, D. I'm saying you frame that argument and counter whatever you want to counter on that film. Which is why, Advaita, and this is the tragedy of India today. When we were doing plays in Calcutta, and, I've done tons of them, we had great critics. Dharani Ghosh knew more about Shakespeare than perhaps, I used to joke, than perhaps Shakespeare did. So, he would argue about the tenor, about the tonality of a play based on great scholarship, on great logic. Finally, the one thing that Sanjay alluded to, and it's important today to understand, we are living in very fragile times. People don't want their faith to be humiliated or insulted or treated with mockery. There's one thing to interpret things differently, and there's one thing to mock. Mocking is not something that will be acceptable to a lot of people. Finally, it's only a film. If films could do damage, then the amount, as he said, the amount of crap we've seen from Bollywood, by now we'd all be damaged human beings. But we've survived. So I don't think, do you remember the good old days when Satyajit Ray, the maestro, did the Apu trilogy? The criticism that he faced was he's showing India in poor light. He's showing India as a nation that's poor. That was the criticism of a film. It's another matter that he got the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Academy. So, it all depends. When Richard Attenborough's Gandhi was made and screened, there were a lot of people who were upset about the portrayal of Edwina and Mountbatten and Nehru. So, these kind of arguments have existed since time immemorial. Where there has been cinema, there has also been conflict. So my argument is that counter it with logic rather than with mob mentality. And as he said, counter it with scholarship. कि भाई ये थी, आपने नहीं दिखाया, ठीक है, पर the reality is ये है. And Dhruval just asked, if films have no influence, then why do all advertisement get film stars? You're absolutely right. I've been against this culture for ages. I've said if a brand is good, it doesn't need a brand ambassador. I totally agree with you.
Thanks, Suhel. I think, Sanjay ji, the Ramayana itself, there are something like 300 versions. For example, if I take Charitra Manas by Tulsidas, which is written in Awadhi, in a local dialect. Back in the day, this is a colloquial form of speaking. It wasn't the form of speaking that, say, highly learned people employed at that point of time. At that time, people could have said, "Oh, why are you dumbing it down to use today's language? Why are you rewriting it?" But today, it's one of the greatest literary works ever, in my opinion, in the world, and beautifully documents the life of Ram. So, a new age asks for new interpretations from a creative lens and to expand an audience. Now, in the sense of AdiPurush, like some people are offended that it's a Pushpak Viman, but you have a dragon. I mean, personally, I find it very derivative. I've already said it. And it's more inspired by Game of Thrones and that world. So I have a creative objection to it. But do you think, we have to kind of open the door to this conversation as well? And Ramayana, it's like right now in Akol and places like that, they worship Ravan. They don't burn him. So with all this diversity, can we be that rigid in representations?
See, it's not a question of representation or the rigidity. You alluded to 300 versions. Yes, there are 300 versions. But each version, each one of those is crafted with deep respect towards Rama and towards the story. And even towards Ravana. Ravana is also depicted in various ways, and why Ravana is considered evil is because of the what is called Dashari in Sanskrit, or 10 enemies, because he actually carries those 10 enemies in his head, and that is how it is represented in those 10 heads. They are not physical heads. Those are the 10 evils that he carries within his head, and that is why Ravana is burnt every year, metaphorically. And I think most people know Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya, Dvesh, Grina, Swarth, Ahankar. And of course, the first six everybody is agreed upon. The other four people interpret differently. And you see, in every Indian poetry, I'll tell you, Bollywood just doesn't get it. As I said yesterday, in fact, I was on a news channel. I said that Bollywood doesn't have any longer the capacity to cinematically treat Indian stories. Period. And why it doesn't have is because most people are now educated in the Western lingo and look at everything from the Western lens. They just do not understand that every poetry, every Ramayana that is crafted and created, it comes with the basics of Sanatana Dharma. What are those basics of Sanatana Dharma? Dharma, karma, sansara, moksha. Okay, and dharma is generally interpreted variously, but the middle two, the concept of karma and concept of sansara, is what defines the Sanatana Dharma, that sets it apart. Karma, we all know, causation. And what is sansara? Sansara is the time cycle. Sansara means the eternal universe. Sansarati iti sansara. The one that is always moving, that is always dynamic, that is sansara. And that sets it apart from the Western religions, which have finite time. So this is infinite time, the cyclic time, which you see represented in a Garba dance. And that is why you find this outrage. People who believe in the day of Qayamat, how they are going and dancing in that cyclical dance around the
Feminine
lamp,
divine.
around the lamp of consciousness. That lamp is lamp of consciousness. I just told you about the chitta part, that is in Sankhya, it is called para. Anyway, so I do not expect anybody from Bollywood today. I mean, there is no Kedar Sharma left anymore, and there is no Ramanand Sagar left anymore. And even Ramanand Sagar and even Gulshan Kumar have educated their children in a way that they do not understand the nuances. Telugu industry still does so. That is why Telugu industry, when they make Puranic
That's where
themes, they make it beautifully because they understand the underlying themes. You see, what sets Sanatan and India apart. I mean, I define culture very differently. You know, people think that the outer symptoms of culture, language, food, dress, all these is culture. No, culture is a function of the time concept of a people. So if you have a sense of infinite time, your culture would be very different. You would not be scared of your deities if you are in an infinite time cycle.
That's beautifully
Whereas,
put.
whereas Islam and Christianity, they say fear Allah, fear God. Why do they say so? Because their time is finite. There is a last day of judgment. They say it's 4,000 years, sometimes 6,000 years. I mean, in fact, they have been carrying on. Even Newton said it will end in 1920, and now it is 2022. And they keep on giving a time. Okay, it will end today. It will end tomorrow. Even Muhammad said it will end 100 years from the time that you met me. So that sense of finite time actually regiments people. It puts them under the fear of the unknown. That fear is not there in the Sanatan Dharma. That is why you find them so open. If you have an infinite time cycle, you will find people very open minded. You look at the ancient Greece culture, and wherever you have this finite time, so the culture is actually function of your time concept. Then your logic concept. The logic concept, where you have multi-valued logic, as we have in all our Sanatan Dharma, where we have our proof systems or the epistemology, which values the pratyaksha or the direct evidence the foremost, you'll have very different attitudes. So this is something that Bollywood just doesn't understand. They're completely incapable of understanding. I say they are what is called, they are brain challenged as far as Sanatan is concerned. So they need to actually learn at the feet of some real scholars, and only then they can make give a better treatment to these kind of subjects. In fact, what has happened is that I was looking at AdiPurush stories and things like that, and I find there's some kind of, they started with, I think, thinking of great animation as it was done in that beautiful Japanese animation film on the life of Rama. I think it's called Legend of a Prince or something. And between that animation and between what is called the Greek story of 300, I think they got lost somewhere. That is why the Ravana's Lanka is so dark. They have lost that concept of Indian poetry. You alluded to 300 creations. In each of those creations, you will find a rasa, you will find bhava, you will find chand. None of these you will find in Bollywood. So my thing is that Bollywood just doesn't have it. So I'm not blaming them for that. And of course, I agree with Suhel. I'm not going to judge a film by just a teaser. But then
Yeah.
my opinion about Bollywood, after an empirical evidence of at least last 20, 25 years, is that they just don't have it. If they had given this very film, in fact, Om Raut did a very good job with Tanaji.
Panaji, yeah.
It was a pretty good movie. But the way, whatever I could see in the teaser, then I go to my what is called rasa, between Vibhats rasa and Bhayanak rasa. The deity of Vibhats rasa is Lord Shiva, and the deity of Bhayanak rasa is Yamaraj. So to me, the depiction looked more like of Yamaraj than Lord Shiva, and Ravan was a Shiva Bhakt, that is
Yeah.
known very well. So they don't understand this. The
Mm.
basic problem is that people who are not even fifth class educated in these subjects are trying to deal with PhD on Bhagwan Ram.
Mm. Suhel, these are very cogent points being made. We of course, I mean, I know from experience that Bollywood usually does not invest in the kind of research that you would need to make. In fact, they don't invest in the writing and the research and all of those things, which is my common complaint with the industry, is that they will pay a lot more attention to outfits and now VFX and makeup artists also. These are all skills, right? These are I don't mean to diss the technicians who perform these tasks on a set, but when it comes to the spine of a film, the kind of investment that needs to be made in story, in research, in scripting, paying writers, paying them on time, these are all things that just don't work in the industry in the way that it should be if they're really interested in serious storytelling.
But they're not interested in serious storytelling. Why do you expect so much from Bollywood that you've been part of it in parts, you know how it works. So here's how it works. They don't care about the writer, they don't care about the lyricist. I mean, see the decline in lyrics from time immemorial. Look at what Sahid Ludhianvi wrote in Pyasa. It was a slap on Pandit Nehru's face. Ye kuche, ye galiyan. Now you see what lyrics you have in most of the films. I mean, it's bizarre. Earlier, and see, Sanjay's point is, I've always said, people mock it when I say it, unless you have scholarship, you will not get it right. Now, let me give you some examples from the world of cinema and theater, but theater primarily. I'm allowed an interpretation. Denzel Washington acted as Brutus, as a modern day Brutus in Julius Caesar. It was staged in New York. It was a brilliant play. I saw the play. Why was it brilliant? If you go back into the history of Shakespeare, all Shakespeare's political tragedies were his angst against Elizabeth I. And he was actually taking Elizabeth I head on. These were all signs of a depraved monarch. And he was pointing at the depravity of Elizabeth I. Now, you have scholars who do enormous hours of research. They work hard at putting the context right. They understand the target audience. Today, what do you have? You make a film. It only depends on bhai actor kab free hai. Actor free hai, film banao aur becho.
Bilkul.
Now you have many options. आपके पास सिनेमा हॉल है, मल्टीप्लेक्स है, कमर्शियल सिनेमा ऑप्शन है, ओटीटी है, आप यूट्यूब में भी डाल दो और फिर पायरेसी भी है. Plus, you have an Indian diaspora, which also has become completely, what I would say, intellectually innocent. So the diaspora will also lap it up. अच्छा, फिल्म रेडी हुई नहीं, आप उसका प्रमोशन शुरू कर दो. आपका टीजर होगा, पार्टीज होंगी, रेड कार्पेट होगा, ब्लू कार्पेट होगा, व्हाइट कार्पेट होगा. And in this whole drum roll, who's actually looking at the script? Let me give you an example. Not that I need to praise him. I did a film with Sanjay Leela Bhansali called Guzarish. The film bombed.
Oh, I forgot. You're an actor also,
I've
guys.
done in Bengali with people like Mrinal Sen and all. So don't label me as, I'm an actor. I'm not a Bollywood actor. So please make that. Yeah, I'm an actor. Okay, and I've done 167 plays. I've done more plays than you've written scripts.
Then Shashi Tharoor.
Hear me out. No. Hear me out. I'm saying there are exceptions to every rule. Hindi cinema, or Bollywood as you call it, has given us some fantastic films. There's no question. No one can debate that. Can you counter
including mine, Kahani?
Can you counter a Waqt? Can you counter a Pyasa? You can't. They've given us entertainment value, Sholay. No matter what you might say, marches. So let's not, tar everyone with the same brush ki bhai pura Bollywood hi brushed hai. Where Bollywood lacks, and I was coming to the Guzarish thing until you interrupted me rudely. Let me tell you about Guzarish and the research that Sanjay Leela Bhansali did. He did enormous research on euthanasia. The reason why I loved working with him was I had just finished reading to do a play. I just finished Brian Clark's Whose Life Is It Anyway, which is the first play to talk about euthanasia. When Bansali and I were actually discussing, I played the role of the doctor. When we were discussing that, it was an intellectual discussion based on fact, and as to why India had banned euthanasia, because the government was worried about its misuse and abuse by poorer sections of society, which would then be willing to pull the plug on someone who was medically not or clinically could be brought back to life, or could be brought back to good health, not brought back to life, could be brought back to good health. But that requires research, that requires belief, and that requires a brain. When you don't have research, brain, and belief, you make the kind of nonsense that we are seeing time and time again. But again, I will say, Advaita, that you can't ban the film because the film has been approved by the Censor Board.
Censor Board.
You don't go and see it. The only way human beings can register protest is by not participating in a movement that is not to their liking. No one has held a gun to your head saying आपको देखनी है, नहीं देखिए, पर you must give reasons क्यों नहीं देखनी. ये नहीं, like a lot of people, even in your comment section, have said, okay, the VFX was bad, this was bad. That is
sure. That's a creative response.
Those are good reasons. Those are good reasons. Sanjay has given reasons based on history, based on the context, based on the historicality, based on the realities of the Sanatan Dharma, which is perfect. But I'm saying you cannot have a situation, Advaita, because I'll tell you why. What you will then do is you will choke the ability to create, even if it is creating out of the box. And I'm not even talking about, things to do with faith and religion. I'm talking about everything. And we don't want to become, I'll tell you now, another player, you'll say, Indira Gandhi banned IS George Bhutto. We finally staged it in Calcutta because Jyoti Basu gave us permission. You know why? Because in one line in the play, General Ziaul Haq says, why are you worried about Pakistan and why are you worried about me? Indira Gandhi is also a dictator. Indira Gandhi banned the play. अब क्यों? आंधी के साथ क्या हुआ था? It was the throttling of creative freedom. Now, would you then say that Andhi should... we did not agree with the ban on Andhi or the boycott. You and I and Sanjay Dixit did not ever agree that Kishore Kumar should have been banned from All India Radio after he refused to sing for Sanjay Gandhi during the emergency. That happened. Sahir Ludhianvi was banned from All India Radio after the Pyasa songs. So my point is that please remember one thing. You have to imagine a world where there will be inequality in intellectual worthiness. The only way to counter that is through intellectual worthiness.
Okay. Sanjay ji, I want to ask you this, do you think that we're heading towards a situation where, people are so easily offended? Like, when, for example, in other traditions, say in the Islamic faith, you can't make films on certain subjects. You can't make a film on the Prophet. It meets a lot of resistance and a lot of causes. In fact, that amazing director.
Not just resistance. It invites beheading.
Well, yeah, but are we heading in that direction? Because, unlike Islam or the Abrahamic faiths, where they have one book, one version, we have multiple versions. We have nuances. We have very delicate nuances. We have different regions. Now, if we attempt to make films on these subjects, there is a high probability that someone or the other will be offended. So are we heading into a similar situation now again, wherein even with us, it's going to be the same sort of hands-off? Maybe nobody will meet a violent end because that's not the response that we've usually seen in these cases. We've seen protests, boycott calls, all of that. But are we heading in that direction?
Well, I don't think any violence has happened till now, and it doesn't seem to be headed in that direction either. There have been boycott calls, which are perfectly fine. That is also an expression of dissent, and that is perfectly allowed. So people can make boycott calls, and they may be heeded by people, they may not be heeded by people. So that's okay. I think because the context is Bollywood, so I think in certain ways, Bollywood actually invited it for themselves. You remember how they cancelled the Kashmir files?
Yes.
Remember how they cancelled the Kashmir files? How
They didn't
derogatory
review
they
it.
were, and the
They
kind of
refused to
snide
review.
remarks the
Hmm.
great stars made. All those who made those snide remarks against certain things, the people today in the social media era, they all remember that. And if you look at, when the people troll people like Saif Ali Khan, or I have myself trolled Saif Ali Khan innumerable times, and each of my episode has been a hit. Why? There must be some reason. It must be resonating with people. I have
Yes.
trolled Javed Akhtar innumerable times, of course Kejriwal too, and I have trolled Nasiruddin Shah. Every time they come up with these ridiculous arguments, saying that okay, we are doomed, and we are making another Pakistan. In fact, I remember there was this talk of who was that? Oh, this was Mr. Shashi Tharoor. Mr. Shashi Tharoor, he, he made that great statement. Are we going to become an Indian Pakistan? Well, uh, there was a talk, and I was invited. They asked me for a topic, and I said, Hindu Pakistan. I said,
Hmm.
I'll talk on Hindu Pakistan, because that's what Mr. Tharoor said. Are we going to become Hindu Pakistan? Well, I reasoned it out, and that particular, I think, episode is doing 2-3 lakh views already over the last 2-3 years. So one of the most popular show on the Sangam Talks. And I
Hmm.
reasoned it out, and I said that Hindu Pakistan is a damn good idea. Well, if I start articulating it now, it will take up the rest of your show. So you can always watch it. I'll send you the link. So you have to have an argument. And these people who troll the others day in and day out, not just troll, they hold others in contempt. And when you hold the others in contempt, their reaction, according to me, is perfectly justified. Have you forgotten how they reacted in the Sushant Singh Rajput episode? I haven't
Hmm.
forgotten. I haven't forgotten. The sense of
Hmm.
entitlement, that arrogance, that contempt for the others. I think a lot of what they are getting is because of this stardom complex, and people are just giving it back to them. That okay, you are no longer our ideals or idols. You are people whom we remember very well, how you behaved with us, how you behaved with the people whom we admired, and how you trolled us. So we are trolling you back, as simple as that. And as far as banning movies are concerned,
Hmm.
you can't ban it, obviously. That as Suhel said, there's a legal procedure. You can go through the legal procedure. Of course, I have my own views about the censor board as it is constituted in this country. I think it is
Same
comprised
here. I have the
entirely,
same view.
entirely of the from the film industry, which is absolutely a wrong idea. The films affect the society at large. The society should be
Yeah.
represented in the censor board.
That's the other thing, I think also there's a conflict of interest. Like, I would hate to be on the censor board because, there's such a conflict of interest that you as a writing, working screenwriter, I think it would just not make any sense to do that. But Suhail, moving on to the larger question, what do you think of this era when it comes to creative freedom? Are we On one hand, we're telling stories that we never had the permission to tell, like a Kashmir Files, or and getting it produced and released, and all of those things. But then on the other hand, there seems to be that every week on social media there is a trend to boycott this film, boycott that film, ban this film. To a large extent, I feel AdiPurush is suffering because of its casting. Because, like Sanjay ji was saying, if someone else had been playing Ravan and not Saif, I don't know, Sanjay ji, do you think it would have been this level of outrage? I have a feeling it has a lot to do with Saif playing Ravan also.
Yeah, actually, it has to do with the Saf's Taimur complex. It comes
Yeah.
across so transparently that people these days they get offended at his very mention. Look at how Vikram Veda has flopped. It's flopped mainly
Yes.
because of Saf.
Safe,
No,
it's
no
crashed.
other
It's
reason.
crashed.
And you consider Brahmastra a hit? That's not my information. So we can
Okay.
have a debate on that some other time.
No, no, no. I would love to know more about this because I'm going purely by media reports.
The
And
media reports, you
I
know how much
like,
he has spent on the PR? And
tell
you know
me
your media well. The amount
how
of
much.
money that has been more than 100 crores is spent on PR. So that can
Wow.
buy any media. So the media reports are not credible. The movie reports, the people who are going to the theater, we also did our little bit of research, OSINT actually, open source intelligence. And
Hmm.
our information is that it's a very bad flop. They're losing at least 200 to 250 crores because they
Hmm.
spent in excess of 600.
My God. Suhel, you've had connections with this world of like media and communication. Those that kind of money is not unrealistic, right?
But
On
I
a big
said
budget.
it in my opening remarks. I said they
Yeah.
spend more money on PR than they spend on getting their heads examined or doing something that they should be doing. But again, as I said, it's up to you. Don't watch the film. No one is forcing you. No one is
Yes,
saying.
yes,
And
exactly,
if you, and if
exactly.
you and if you don't want to watch the film, and if you really want to get on to what I would call a debate, then debate it on the basis of logic. See, what you're doing is when you say ban and boycott, you're actually playing into their hands because they are then being given the title कि भाई हमारा भी कोई creativity थी. अरे अगर creativity है ही नहीं, why? It's like telling this guy, oh, you're not that intelligent. That means you're suggesting he has minor intelligence. Just say you're intellectually innocent means you're unintelligent totally. So I'm saying you are playing into their hands when you say, ki, bhai, oh, we boycott you, we ban you. Then they're saying, oh, then it becomes a debate around intolerance, which is the word the so-called pseudo-liberals want used. कि भी देखो
Hmm.
countries become intolerant. देखिए ये हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है. अरे, why give them even that much of भाव? Why give them that much of credence? आप बोलिए कि नहीं, हमने आपकी पिक्चर इसलिए नहीं देखनी क्योंकि आपने ये 3 चीजें की हैं जिसमें हमारा विश्वास ही नहीं है और हम समझते हैं कि ये इतनी बुरी फिल्म है कि हम अपना 2.5 घंटा क्यों वेस्ट करें. पर अगर आप ये बोलिए कि नहीं, आपकी फिल्म बैन होनी चाहिए बिना कारण दिए या बिना रीजंस दिए, फिर वो लोग समझेंगे कि आपने उनके क्रिएटिविटी पे आक्रमण किया है. और आपने तो उनकी क्रिएटिविटी पे आक्रमण किया ही नहीं क्योंकि आप खुद ही कह रहे हैं कि क्रिएटिविटी है ही नहीं. हाँ, जहां गलत रिप्रेजेंटेशन है, जहां उन्होंने गलत फहमी को प्रोत्साहित किया है या एम्पलीफाई किया है, फिर आप उसको डिबेट करिए. आप कहिए कि आपने ये गलत किया था और इसलिए हम समझते हैं कि आप देखने के लायक ही नहीं है. देखिए, एक बात है, इट्स एन ओल्ड इंग्लिश सेइंग, यू मे हेट मी, यू मे डिस्पाइज मी, बट व्हाट किल्स मी इज इनडिफरेंस. You see, you either be indifferent कि भाई ठीक है, आपने किया है, आप करो. We're indifferent because what they want is they want this debate. They want us versus them. It is not about us versus them. It is about a terrible film, a terrible depiction, or a terrible thing, depending on which film you're discussing. But the point is, that's what it is.
Suhel,
People could argue with you saying, oh, I don't agree with Kahani. I don't think the script was right. इसीलिए आप बैन कर दो. अरे यार, नहीं तो फिर कोई क्रिएटिविटी करेगा ही नहीं.
Sanjay ji, I know you want to come in, and please do. I just want to add one thing. It's always been an us versus them, right? They've just been more subtle, like not inviting
They've
to
been much smarter. They've been
festivals,
smarter.
kicking you out of film projects, all which have happened with me. But I mean, they just do it in a more sophisticated way, right? They don't do it in this frontal way in which the non-left does it.
I don't really think so. The way they did it with the Kashmir files, it was quite frontal, and
Now, yeah.
It is. I think it was quite ugly. I just wanted to do a rejoinder to that intolerance bit that Suhel said. I think we must remember Karl Popper's paradox that
Yeah.
tolerating intolerance will ultimately mean the end of tolerance. That is why I always frame it: do not tolerate intolerance. Be very intolerant towards intolerance. And we
No,
think
being
that these
intolerant of
people have been
stupidity.
very intolerant, therefore, we shall not tolerate their intolerance.
Also, let me be deeply honest. ये सब डिबेटें अद्वैता जी के शो पे होंगी, संजय के शो पे होंगे, सोशल मीडिया में होंगे. But these films, some of them, despite being terrible, work. There is a large audience which is not on social media, yeah, which isn't watching the Sunday Club or the Monday
Yeah.
Club or the Wednesday Club. And therefore, no, I'm making an important point. See, you asked, how do they do it? It's not about they or anyone. There is a toolkit. I hate to use that phrase, but there is a toolkit. And I'm saying that the more you say ban and yay and wo, you're playing into the hands. And I'm not a great one in believing that you ban anything.
The banning, of course,
The government of
neither
India
it works, nor
banned
is anybody asking for ban. I think all this debate and all these people's reaction, there's hardly been any call to ban it.
No, they've said ban karo, boycott.
Or boycott, yes, boycott trend's been there. And
No,
we have
boycott is an
supported
individual
boycott.
decision, yeah.
And we have
But
our
there's nothing
reasons.
wrong with a boycott trend.
Absolutely not. There's nothing. I mean, if I go, as I said earlier, I said an individual decision must be respected. My view
This
on a
is-
film, my view on a film doesn't necessarily have to be the same as Sanjay's.
That's fine. That's fine. This is an interesting point that Chev Roy has made. And this is true. I know, like, people think any publicity is good publicity, especially in the film industry, because it's such a crowded market. So you get the attention, you get the eyeballs. What do you think, Sanjay ji? Do you think this kind of publicity is actually going to have them laughing to the box office?
I say it didn't work with many of them. It didn't work with Lal Singh Chadha in spite of all the bad publicity. I think nobody got more bad publicity than Lal Singh Chadha. It bombed. And Brahmastra, in spite of the media claims, it has actually been a huge loss. You call it a flop, you don't call it a flop, is a different matter. It's a matter of semantics. But it has made a huge loss. And the money on PR has been spent by Karan Johar only to protect his brand. It's been a desperate brand protection strategy from his side. And Suhel is a brand specialist. He would know how much people can spend to protect their brand.
The stakes are too high. Please understand, the stakes are too high for these jokers because they're spending stupid amounts of money.
I'll tell you, these films
What,
flopping.
450 crores for a movie like that?
There's
Just
a-
look at
I
Vikram
mean,
Veda. The Tamil version was made for 11 crores. And they've spent 175 crores for the
मैं
Hindi
आपको बोलूं
version.
how it works. Sanjay,
Because of
let
the
me tell you how it works. This was started many years ago by the well-known Jitendra. He said, मेरे को आप फीस मत देना, मेरे को आप टेरिटरी दे दो. If you remember in the good old days, अगर आपको उत्तर प्रदेश की टेरिटरी मिल जाती, then you would share the proceeds with the exhibitors. The producer would say, okay, this territory is yours. Today, what they want is three things. They want an upfront fee, they want revenue sharing, and then they want a protected upside. Means that there'll be no downside. So now, if I, as a producer, I'm already down 200 crores even before I start the film. I mean, the film, it's ridiculous. So you're sinking more money. I'm telling you, it's like a Lehman Brothers on celluloid. You keep putting bad money after good. Oh, sorry, good money after bad. And it never works. Whereas in the South, they're smarter. That's why they're more profitable. We keep saying, हमारे जो actors हैं, इतना पैसा कमा रहे, उतना पैसा. The actual rich people are there. और वो सही कमाते हैं. They deliver on time. उनके नखरे भी कम हैं. उनका नाटक भी कम है. They deliver. People watch. Yes, people go to other extremes and also venerate. Remember what happened with N.T. Ramarao. Before that with MGR. Then with Jayalalitha.
the temples and all that. Yeah.
They're venerated. So my point is that you never know how it's going to play out. If it's a bad movie, people will automatically not go to see it. It'll be an auto boycott. The moment you publicly say, "Ki, bhai, I want ban, boycott," I think you're playing into their territory.
Yeah. Well, fascinating discussion, and I just want to thank both of you for joining me on this one. I was very curious about this topic and wanted to get a sense of where we're heading when it comes to creative freedom. I
Just for
hope.
information, we
Yeah,
will be
geez.
discussing the aesthetics of this movie from the
Oh,
very, very
That would be
Indian point of
interesting.
view with Professor Bharat Gupta tomorrow at 7 p.m. on
oh,
the
nice,
Jaipur
nice.
Dialogues.
Oh, okay. So do watch 7 p.m. on the Jaipur Dialogues channel with Professor Bharat Gupta, who's really brilliant, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real authority so on the traditions. But Sanjay ji, you must come back, right, on the channel. It's been a pleasure having you. Sanjay ji is frozen, or
Thank you very much.
you find
Thank you for
himself
having
here.
me here.
No, you must come back. We'd love to have you on more discussions, and really enjoyed this
Sure.
one as well because it
Only
gives.
only off days I have is Wednesday and Sunday. So
Oh, so I caught you on a good day. Great. Wednesdays and
otherwise
Sundays.
7 p.m. is my own broadcast time.
Oh no. ठीक है. So I will remember that Wednesdays and Sundays. So you can come on the Sunday Club also someday.
He said, other than Wednesdays and Sundays. What did you not understand?
He said his only off day is Wednesday and Sunday. What do you not understand?
My God.
God, I'm
I
on
didn't
it
hear
today.
off day. I said I heard my only day. I mean, obviously, I'm getting
I
old.
said my
and
only
You
off
got it
days.
wrong. You got it wrong. It's okay. It happens to the best of us. Never mind. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and tune in again. And we'll see you soon with another topic. Really, lots to discuss, lots of headlines coming up. And we'll, of course, talk more about politics when we can. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye bye.